Welcome back. I've got Kyle Livingston on the line. Kyle, how are you?
Good, Michael. Thanks for having me. How's things going on your end?
Things are going great. Time's flying. You go and where in the heck did summer go? And it's like literally fall season hits, and not only is a certain coffee shop selling a certain flavor of spice latte, but the temperature seems to be coinciding with that already. I'm like, wait a minute, we should phase into this. But enough about the weather. Why don't you share a little bit about yourself, and then we'll dive into the conversation.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So, again, my name is Kyle Livingston. Today I am a fractional COO. And so today I go into multiple companies, typically online companies doing six figures a year or more. And I really take over a second in command. My team and I, we go in and take over a second in command. And that's what I do today. And that there's been, a long entrepreneurial journey that got me to where I'm at today. And it's been a fun journey. It's been an awesome journey, but I think that, as we get into more of our conversations, you can start, kind of probing and asking questions around like, where did it all start? What happened? And where did we get to from here? So but that's what we do today. And we take online coaches, consultants, infopreneurs, and help them really fortify and strengthen their businesses so the owners can get out of the day-to-day and stop being kind of tied to a high-paying job and actually have the business that they're actually looking to build here.
That's important. I find a lot of entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs and what solopreneurs, everypreneur out there, sometimes they'll have a product or service that's really good and they're the brains behind it, but then they're also taking out the trash too and mopping the floors. And I find a lot of them have a really difficult time separating themselves from that so they can focus on what only they can do. So it sounds like your organization does a lot of help around that arena to help them really shine in their sweet spot.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about your journey. Let's talk about, because being a fractional COO, that's not something that I remember in college or even in high school was a job description. So what got you to this point? Because I know you've done a lot of things and launched businesses and have been successful. And I want to talk about the not so successful, although I'm a big fan of lessons learned because I think that makes your success stronger. But share a little bit about the journey. I really want to hear about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've always kind of been an entrepreneur to some degree. Early on, like as a kid, I was, I don't know, between 12 and 13 years old. I wanted to make enough money to go to a church camp that summer. And we just didn't have the money. I grew up very poor, just didn't have the money to go. And it kind of led me down the path of entrepreneurship, right? I'd go start knocking on people's doors in the neighborhood. I guess it led me into sales more than entrepreneurship. Started knocking on people's doors in the neighborhood, seeing if I can mow their lawns, wash their cars, etc. And what really flipped the switch for me was after I got back from church camp, made enough money. I'm sitting in my bedroom one weekend counting the money that I had made from Friday, Saturday's worth of work in our neighborhood. And I'm sitting on my waterbed and I'm counting my $100 my money, and my mom walks in and she goes, "Oh, I see you're counting your money you've been saving up for a couple months." And I'm like, "No, this is what I made from Friday." And she's like, "You've literally made more money than Dad did today." And I was 15 years old going, wow, like this system that I'm going into with school and education and going to get a job and kind of follow my dad's footsteps, that's not going to serve me well because I have these big goals, these big aspirations, even as a young type. So that kind of opened up my eyes to the entrepreneurial world. Is like, okay, I got to figure something else out here. And shortly after graduating high school, I started my first business, and it was in the telecommunications, construction, commercial construction business. I had been working in that industry for a few years, and right out of the gate became, fairly successful, especially for being a 20-year-old kid. I was fairly successful, grew the company up, sold it just a little over a year later. And the next business that I had gotten into was also a commercial construction business, but it was through a partner. This gentleman called me, says, "Hey, I heard you're pretty good at this particular type of industry. I am bleeding between $40,000 and $60,000 of cash per month. Can you come in and help me out?" And at the time, I wasn't interested. I was going to go travel. I was going to go take some of my money from the first business and go enjoy my time and go do some traveling and et cetera. And Mike, this guy's name, his name was Mike. We called him Breezer. Breeze was very, very adamant. He goes, "Look, man, just take me, let's go to dinner. Let's have a conversation and let's see if this is something that we can work out." And so I was like, "All right, cool." He's like, "You pick the place, tell me where to go." I take him out to sushi. The guy doesn't even like sushi. So he entertains me at sushi. He doesn't even like it. And he basically offers me a portion of his business, multiple six-figure salary, and basically everything I wanted when I'd asked. I basically asked for something that I knew he would tell me no because I didn't actually want it. I asked for it, he told me yes anyway. And so now I'm on my second business, and we turn around that business. We take it from, bleeding money in the red every month to making it a profitable business and selling that business about 12 months later. Did it again, wildly successful, exited that company just shy of 2 years after that. So I'm 3 exits in at this point. And man, I think I'm on top of the freaking world. Okay. I'm going into full-time real estate investing. That's where my wife and I met, was at a real estate investment club. And I get a call one day from this gentleman named Clay. And Clay had been an old buddy of mine that we'd done a bunch of work for. And he calls me, he's like, hey man, the company that you had sold last year is no longer in business. And we have about $4 million worth of contracts that I would love to give to you. And because they're no longer in business, the NDA that you had is no longer relevant. And so my girlfriend at the time, now wife, we sat down and had a conversation about it. It's like, yeah, let's go do this. I've done this 3 times. I got this. This is going to be easy. Let's roll. And I actually ended up buying all of the stuff that I had sold initially, all of the materials and tools and trucks and trailers, et cetera. I had bought it all back for like pennies on the dollar. And so I made money on the exit, and I'm also making money on the rebuy, basically. And so we're in Southern California at the time. The first contract is in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I get up all the crews, I get up all the trucks, I get all the guys, and we mobilize out to Albuquerque. And over the next 7 to 14 days, man, I should have known right away there was something wrong with this compared to the other 3 versions of this business that I had done and exited successfully. A little bit of a fun story. It's fun looking back on now, but in the moment, it was terrifying. We had this gentleman that was working with us, and in that industry, in the telecom industry, drugs are pretty rampant. I mean, you have a lot of guys, they're kind of transient sometimes. It's just not the best. So drugs are pretty rampant. And this guy, he kind of just disappeared one day. Like, I had no idea what happened. He didn't show up for work. I have no clue what's going on. And so I just wrote it off. The guy is not showing up for work. He's just, whatever. And about 2 days later, it's about 1 a.m. I'm upstairs and I hear this just commotion. All hell breaks loose downstairs. And so I go running downstairs. I'm probably wearing like a robe or my underwear or something. I go running downstairs, and this guy that didn't show up for work 2 days earlier is now breaking into our house. And we had some guys staying in one of the guest bedrooms, some workers in one of the guest bedrooms. He's breaking into our house completely high as a kite, thinking people are chasing him, trying to get into like his phone or his brain or something. And he's coming for like solace and help. And he's just high as a kite. And that was day like 7. And everything for the next 9 months kind of went that same way. I was so focused inside of the business and inside of the problems and managing the guys and dealing with payment terms and, owning the business, but also doing the paperwork and taking out the trash and getting the trucks cleaned and doing everything else that goes into running a business, that I wasn't focused on the problems we were running into. We were running into a lot of big problems. I was just like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? And that kind of began the humbling lesson that was business failure that year for me. And so, yeah, I know it's kind of a long-winded answer to your question, but we can go wherever you want from here, man.
Yeah, that's one of those things where in my career, I've had a situation with an employee, and I'm going to be very careful because I know people listen to this and I want to protect everybody involved, but they had a similar issue. They didn't, thankfully, break into my home or anything like that, but they would go MIA for quite a period of time, and then a coworker discovered them sleeping in our office on a Saturday, and it was like, okay, this is a little out of the ordinary type of thing. So that's one of those things where you're like, okay, we know that drugs can do some crazy things for people and to people, and that's there. But then just that on top of all the other things that you encountered for several months, you're thinking, wait a minute, how come I've never, and this is a question I should ask you first, is because of your successes that you had before, I'm sure when you were going through these 9 months of what in the world's going on, I'm sure there was a thought that crossed my mind. It's like, how come I never encountered this before in the previous things? Why were those so I don't want to say easy, but just they flowed through without any issues? I'm sure you had that question.
I definitely had that question, and it wasn't until probably a year after me losing everything for the first time that I began to really look at that. Because in the moment, I was so focused on like, dude, I have payroll Friday and it's like 25 grand and I have $700 in the bank. How am I making payroll? And the conversations I was having internally at the time were more like, how do I solve the acute problem? And I literally couldn't get past that acute problem. Like Friday payroll happens, like, oh, we made payroll, we could breathe. And then Monday was a new set of problems. And so I might get 24-hour break between figuring out payroll and like moving on to the next set of problems. And to be honest, I just wanted to chill. Like I was so stressed out trying to solve that Friday payroll problem that on Saturday and Sunday, I just wanted to go have a couple of drinks and relax. And I wasn't really focused. And so part of it was the person that I was at the time. But a lot of it was, I just wasn't in the mindset of really trying to solve the real problems that I was running into. Looking back though, to answer your question, and looking back, I had sacrificed quality of the people that I surrounded myself with for, I had traded, I didn't sacrifice, I had traded the quality of people that I had around me because I thought I was the shit. I thought I was the man. I thought I had everything under control. I thought nothing could take me out. And I wasn't focused on hiring quality people. I wasn't focused on getting quality contracts. I was like, give me a warm body. I'll figure it out. I'm the man. We'll make this happen. So looking back, I didn't focus on the top 10% of employees was one of my big problems. But I would say the number one attribution here was simply, I just wasn't focused on actually trying to solve problems that mattered to the business. I was just too focused on trying to solve like in the weeds next acute problem.
So after losing everything and you were reflecting back on everything that had transpired, what were some things that, obviously you mentioned a couple of them right there, where you focused on, okay, I need to be in the top 10% type of thing. But what were some additional pitfalls that you may have encountered after you had lost everything and started to rebuild?
Yeah, I think that one of the things is actually controlling the controllable. And I know this is such like a cheesy metaphor, right? But like there's so many things out there that we can control that we don't. And in the business at the time, there were a lot of things that I could have controlled, but didn't. And I was so focused on controlling the immediate, I wasn't focused on controlling all of the controllable. And to be honest, I was also trying to control a lot of things that weren't controllable. And so looking back on it, it was like figuring out and diagnosing the actual problem and not diagnosing what I felt like the problem was. I think that was a big key distinguishing thing for me after the fact was like, if I'd have just focused on like what the problems were, right? If I'd have focused on actual leadership to the team, if I'd have focused on, getting people rallying behind the same goals that I had, if I would have done the things that go into actually running a successful business instead of just doing the day-to-day and being what I refer to as a technician, like I was way more of a technician in my business than I was an integrator or even an operator or a visionary or whatever you want to call that role. I was way more of a technician. And I couldn't step out of that technician role this time to actually focus on growing the business.
It's a common problem that a lot of people that grow into a business, let's say they're really good at what they do, they're a technician, we'll use that term, and then they get promoted to manager. And even in a managerial role, sometimes you still get your hands dirty, you're still working on some things. But then when you are running a division or you're running an organization, even the small companies, there's this tendency where it's like, well, I got to keep my hands in it so I keep fresh. And what happens is you're robbing yourself of the ability to grow the business, expand it. And you're also, going back to your comment earlier, if you're not hiring the top 10%, then you may not have people that you can trust to do the things and be on the same page for the growth. Because ultimately, as a leader, you're to lead. You let them drive the bus. You're leading. You kind of point and say, "Go over there." And of course, with the strong leaderships, if they see something where it could be a potential problem, they'll warn you, and you'll go, "Okay, maybe we shouldn't go over there. Maybe you should pivot over to this way." It's a lot easier to turn a vehicle when it's moving. And if you're stagnant and you're staying stuck, then you can't. And I think these are all important lessons that I'm sure a lot of listeners right now are kind of nodding their head if they've been through it, or they're starting to reflect on, ooh, wait a minute, that one situation that I've been trying to sweep under the rug, a lot of people are tripping over that lump right now because it's something you have to address. And sometimes that's scary to do, especially if it's an unknown type of situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is, right? You have those things in your business. And what I've found is a lot of business owners that I work with, that lump under the carpet you're talking about, they typically sweep it under there because they don't know what they don't know. And it's like, I know this is a problem, but I don't know how to solve it. And the last time I hired a who to solve this problem, they left me with the mess. And so here I am with the mess and sweeping. And I see that all the time. I see that all the time. And more often than not, sweeping it under the rug just makes it a bigger and bigger problem. And it just festers. And then what happened, with me was it all came to a head. And after doing $3 million in revenue in 9 months, I was holding the bag for $160,000 loss because I kept sweeping problems under the rug that came back to bite me in the ass later on down the road. 9 months later, but they still came back to bite me.
Yeah, and that fear of how am I going to cover payroll is a huge one. I've worked for an organization that had that issue from time to time, and that was an uneasy feeling, not only for me as an employee, because I was akin to the information and knew what the challenges were, but from an ownership standpoint, it's like one, and I tell this, in the talks I do about burnout prevention and stress and all of that, is financial stress, in my opinion, some people may disagree, but I think financial stress is probably the worst one. And the reason being is, as much as we hate paying bills, we actually do enjoy the fact that we have the ability to do so. And when we lose that ability, and when it comes to payroll, you're impacting the lives of everybody that you pay. And that has such a ripple effect on it. And you're going, oh, but I always say, you don't pay people, that's when you get to see the true self of them. No, they're not cookie cutter, blowing sunshine up the boss's bum. No, they, who they are right there and then, and when you impact their livelihood. And that's something I always encourage our entrepreneurs. It's like, make sure you have some elbow room. Because if you don't, then, you could be in the situation that you unfortunately had faced.
Well, and it like you said, it shows you who they are, and I'm never one to mess with anybody's money. And this was when I learned this lesson. I had 6 guys on this particular project out in Texas. And the way that we structured it, we had a big house and the guys would live in the house and I'd have my own room in the house. It was just cheaper than putting them all in hotels. And so I came up to some of the guys. I'm like, look, guys, it was Thursday. I said, hey guys, look, I'm not going to be able to pay you tomorrow. I'll have your full paycheck for you on Monday. This was another challenge we were facing, right? Hitting payroll was just a problem from day one for us. And so I said, hey, listen, I can't pay you Friday. I will have a check for you Monday, just the way that everything happened to the transfers, et cetera, et cetera. I was just too late. And I told everybody, here's a few $100 to get through the weekend. They all smoke cigarettes and drink beer. I said, I'll buy you as many cigarettes as you can smoke, as much beer as you can drink. You guys get Monday off. You get tomorrow off as well. You get a 4-day weekend. Here's a few $100. Enjoy the weekend. And so Monday rolls around. I pay the guys and I give them Tuesday off. I said, hey guys, listen, I'm gonna give you guys tomorrow off as well. Thanks for being flexible. I appreciate it. And these 3 guys, they were friends and they all come from Florida together. And they said, hey boss, we're in Texas. They're like, hey, we're gonna go down to the beach on Tuesday morning. We're gonna leave pretty early so we can get some time at the beach. And just expect us to be gone when you wake up. So, all right, cool. And so and here's a little side note about like red flags and paying attention to the red flags. Well, that Monday night, I had walked out of my bedroom and I had noticed one of the guys carrying a suitcase up the stairs. I didn't think anything about it. I thought maybe he's just repacking his room or whatever. Didn't think anything of it. Tuesday night, haven't heard anything from the guys all day long. Tried getting a hold of them, can't get a hold of them, nothing. I get a picture of my truck and GPS coordinates. And these guys had stolen my truck, drove it from Texas all the way to Daytona Beach, Florida, left it in Daytona Beach with the doors open and the keys in the center console because I didn't pay him for 72 hours.
Wow. Yeah. Well, at least you had, satellite photos and all that to be able to say, here's where your sled is.
Yep.
That's one of the positives of that technology is, you can find it if somebody boosts it, but so here you are. Okay, I got to get my truck back. Here I am in Texas. I got to get to Daytona Beach. money's probably not easily flowing
Not at
at
all.
this point. So buying a one-way ticket from Texas to, Daytona Beach is in the last second is not going to be good. So yeah, how did you get your truck back?
So I had I had called the cops. I went to go report it stolen. Well, because they had access to the keys, it's not actually stolen. And so I'm sitting here like there's literally nothing I can do. I finally, it's Wednesday midday at this point, finally get a hold of one of the guys that had driven the truck. And I'm having a conversation with him, tells me why he took it. He got peer pressured into it. And I had convinced him to actually drive it back and I would give him his position back at the company. And so I paid him to drive it back. He ended up quitting like a week later anyway, but I thankfully had gotten my truck back. It had been a little destroyed and damaged from the guys taking it out and just not really caring about it. But at the end of the day, we'd gotten the truck back. But the lesson of that story for me was like, you never know what something small to you is going to do to your employees. To me, it wasn't a big deal. Hey, I'll pay you guys on Monday. Here's all the money you need between now and then, right? Can't give you your full paycheck, but I can give you a third of it plus food, plus per diem, et cetera. To me, it was a small thing, but to the guys, it was everything. And it was worth literally stealing a truck and driving cross country to get out of that environment. And so if you're an owner of a business listening to this right now, understand that your actions, especially when it comes to your employees' money or even your contractors' money, your actions, even if you think it's small, may be a really big deal to somebody else. And never to really proceed to do something without really having conversations with the team, with the people to make sure that everybody's on that same page.
Yeah, that's a very important lesson to share. So fast forward from getting your truck back and having that person leave, how did you get from there to, to where you are today? What are some of the steps along the way?
So after we closed that business down, my wife and I decided that, this isn't something we wanted to do. Our lifestyle was attached to our business and we didn't have our business attached to our lifestyle. And that was something that her and I both wanted. We both wanted to be able to live wherever we wanted, travel where we wanted, and not be stuck to, a particular place. And so we went and bought a 36-foot RV, completely gutted it. I remodeled it over the next 90 days, just kind of getting out of, work mode, kind of de-stressing. And we traveled around the US trying to figure out, one, where we wanted to live, but two, what we wanted to do next. And so I spent the next 18 months buying every course and every program and everything that you could possibly imagine, parked myself in the forest and just began learning this new world of online entrepreneurship, right? I knew business fundamentals, but I didn't know the online world. And so I really got in the online world, opened an agency with a business partner, and I was on the up and up, right? I thought we were going to start doing good, lost everything. It's been about 2 years, doing okay, doing about 20, 25K a month in the agency now. We signed this big client that we'd been prospecting for about 6 months. The day we signed that client, my business partner shuts down our bank account, cleans everything out, and re-signs everything to, he didn't actually sign it to us. He signed it to his other business entity. And so I woke up one morning and again, for the second time, everything that I had was gone. And I'm like, shoot, dude, like we had a 60K a month now agency, 40 to 60K a month, and it's gone overnight. And again, I wasn't in a financial position to go and like fight this in court and do all these things. And so I had to start over again. But I knew that I had business. I knew I had online business knowledge. I knew I had brick and mortar business knowledge. And so I went and began marketing for a new client in the commercial construction space. And after about marketing for about 5 months, he calls me. He's like kind of frantic. He's like, Kyle, we got to shut ads off, man. I have too much work coming this way. I can't take on any more work. And at the time, he was my biggest retainer. And so I get off the phone. I'm like, dude, what a terrible offer. Like I do so good at marketing and running an agency and running your ads and buying your media that you have to shut down your ads because you can't take on any more work. I was like, that's a terrible deal. So I call him back. His name's Mike. I'm like, Mike, I'm flying up to New York next week and we're going to fix your operational issues because that's the problem. Not being able to fulfill on what we're marketing for you. That's the problem. We can fix that. Flew up to New York, spent about 2 weeks in New York with him. And over the course of the next 2 weeks, we were able to really fix his business issues, like the operational problems he had in his business, getting him focused on the things he needed to focus on, getting his team with checklists and process and all these things. And over the next 12 months, his business went from about $2.5 million a year to $6 million with the same team in 12 months. Because we removed the bottlenecks, we removed all the issues. Like these guys would need a saw in I don't know, 3 hours away from their warehouse. They'd get to the job site and realize, oh shoot, I forgot the saw. And so you either buy a new saw or you drive back to the warehouse. Well, you're going to buy the new saw and there's just wasted money. And so all these little things we fixed, got the owner out of the business. And that was my first, like, okay, maybe I can do this whole operational consulting thing. I see a lot of people bottlenecked at this place. I began working with a consultancy, a brand, big brand name consultancy here in Franklin, Tennessee. And I realized that a lot of their clients that were going through this consultancy, they were stuck at like 60 to 100K a month. That was kind of their area that everybody was stuck in. And the ones that got past that, they went to 6, 7, 800K a month. But everybody was kind of stuck at that mark. And I started realizing, man, people can sell and market themselves into a place of like pain and frustration and stay there, which is what I had done. I had gotten $3-4 million worth of work, couldn't fulfill on it, stayed at the certain number mark, couldn't get past it. And so I began working with people operationally. Hey, let me come in and fix the operational bottlenecks in your business. How do we get you as the owner out of the operational bottleneck? How do we get your team on the same page? How do we get you focused on the things that'll move the needle, et cetera, systems, process, right? All the unsexy stuff that goes into operations. But that's when I kind of realized the flip switched for me is like, man, if we can take these businesses who know how to market and know how to sell and add rocket fuel to the back end, which is the operations, they can scale very, very quickly. And, every one of my biggest success stories to date was we took one client, they were doing about 60K a month in profit. And over 4 months, we took them from 60K a month in profit to 211K a month in profit around this, same team, same everything, all because we just removed the bottlenecks from the business. And so that was kind of the journey getting here. I just realized so many people were stuck here. And yeah, it's the easiest way for us to help them get to that next level without being a marketer or a sales coach or something along those lines.
That's awesome. And the thing of it is, all the skills that you had and have, and launching all of the businesses that you launched and the success you had, you see that. So what happens is what's not obvious to that organization in New York, you saw through all the bottlenecks, the silos, okay, we got to get a saw. Okay, why don't you properly stock your work? So you go up there and you have all the tools you'll need, and interchangeable parts too, and standardization. So let's say one person is working on a job and for some reason you need to call them over to another job for a day. Well, they've got all the tools. They don't have to go, what are you working on? What kind of tools do I need to bring? No, you have all of them. So you just go, drop in, go, and then return back. And those efficiencies is where you make money. I tell people this all the time. When I used to work in the nonprofit sector for a bit during my career, and of course, everybody knows a nonprofit, you're privately funded either by donations or government funding type of thing, and it's capped, so they don't have a lot of opportunities to really grow the revenue. But I tell them, it's like, find those inefficiencies in the expense lines, and when you find them, you'll save money, and it'll be as if you got a big boost. One organization, I found $250,000 just in operating expense savings. It's like, let's find this new agreement, let's negotiate this new contract, let's standardize on some things. Why are we ordering this? No one uses them. Well, we've just been ordering them. It's like, and you go into the warehouse and you go, it's like, it's like, why do we have 7 years worth of Post-it notes? It's like, okay, are we going to
on the order every month? And it's
exactly. It's like, and no one uses them. It's like, all right, guess what we're going to do? We're going to canvass all of our partners, and we're going to see if we can donate them and get a receipt, and then we're going to write it off on our taxes as we're never going to do this again. And an organization that was, of course, a nonprofit, were the recipient of a whole lot of Post-it notes that they use all the time. And we got a little bit of a write-off to kind of correct a boo-boo. And then from there, it's fine. But again, you find those efficiencies. It makes the biggest difference. It's literally like landing a new sale or and again, a lot of times with that extra revenue, you can go, you know what, we can bring in an extra person to help with this thing, which all of a sudden qualifies you for additional funding. Guess what? You found some savings and now you're getting more money too. It's a win-win across the board. So that's got to be some fun work that you get to do on that.
It is. And the transition from technician or operator to executive, the loss prevention is like one of the biggest profit centers that you have, is because just like you said, you don't even know where you're wasting money. So loss prevention is a huge profit center for a lot of clients.
Totally agree. So I've loved this conversation. Where can people find out more about you, this awesome work you're doing?
Yeah, man. So for your audience, what I've done is I've taken all of the templates, all of the dashboards, all of the tracking metrics, all of the trainings that we've done, all of the SOPs, everything that we have that we've standardized for all of these businesses. I'm just going to go ahead and give to your audience as a gift to them for having me on the show. So if you guys want to go to fortifiedtoolbox.com, you guys can get everything you need. There's no paywall, no nothing there. It's all free. You can download all of the assets, and that's what we use to run businesses that are doing, some businesses do 100K a month on these systems and these templates. Other businesses are doing upwards of $1 million a month on these same exact templates. So if you're anywhere in that range, or your goals are some of that range, these templates will be exactly what you need.
That was very generous. Thank you for that. And I'll definitely have that in the show notes. So Kyle, thank you again for your time today, and congratulations for persevering and getting through all of those challenges to be successful and where you are today. So thanks again for being on the show.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. I appreciate it.